Christ is King is currently trending all over X for the most bizarre reasons that I am not comfortable with even directly leaning into, because these conversations always go off the rails. So if you guys don't know, there's been a civil war brewing within the conservative side of the media sphere, specifically between the likes of the Daily Wire crowd and the Candace Owens, Andrew Tate bunch. And it came up when Andrew Klavan, who is the evangelical on Daily Wire, he said, the problem with arguing with anti-Semites is that they are genuinely stupid as bricks. They say Christ is King and America first, then make excuses for Iran's government of radical Islamists dedicated to U.S. destruction. They think Gentiles have tormented and persecuted Jews in one nation after another, so there must be something wrong with Jews. Really, Sherlock. And so he is a Jewish Christian, by the way. They're not even smart enough to be feckless clowns. What is feckless clowns?
I don't know, but you're skating on thin ice.
Yeah. Jews are less than 3% of our population and have made amazing contributions in science, industry, finance, and entertainment. And that's not even mentioning the bagels. Oh, the bagels. And while Jews have their evil doers, just like everyone else, the anti-Semitic conspiracy theories about Nagoski and the Bolshevik and Leo Frank are truly the work of semi-literate morons. I know they like to flood social media with ugly garbage. It's all they've got. But paying attention to them lowers your IQs more than fluoride and doesn't even help your teeth. But best to leave them to play with themselves. Now, I think it's fair to say that there's been a rise of anti-Semitism. Like, I think that's a reasonable conclusion to make. And sometimes it is appropriating phrases like Christ is King. Okay. That doesn't mean Christ is not King.
Hello.
That just means that that statement can be appropriated. And there's always been anti-Semitism throughout history.
Yep.
Now, this was responded back by Candace Owens.
The real Candace O.
Right? Thank you. And there's speculation on she left Daily Wire, was forced out of Daily Wire because of some of her views on this. And she has a long history of just saying stuff that's unequivocally false. We've done videos on it. Michael Brown has done a video. A bunch of people, multiple Christian and Jewish YouTubers have exposed how goofy she is with like her Frankfurt stuff and all this. The Israel was island to design for pedophiles and like that sort of stuff. She didn't say that word for word. I'm paraphrasing.
Wow. That's a crazy
She said, thank you for re-upping this most crucial conversation about Christ as King. Almost exactly a year later, and once again during the season of Lent, after a year of thoughtfulness, I want you to know that I will never stop declaring it. She just didn't get it.
Candace Owens, a true Pharisaical pretender, vociferously proclaims her devotion to Christ for no other reason than to elevate her perceived status. Her outrage is designed not to shout the truth from the rooftops, build bridges, or make peace, but to subvert Christianity itself with its new force to her own purposes. She is literally using God's name in vain. There are few more unforgivable sins. He said you're clout chasing.
I mean, that's a lot of big statements. There.
Wow.
And he goes on and on and on. So this is what I believe has led to Jesus is King to now, or Christ is King, to now be trending. And if you click into it, it's just, everyone from Seth Dillon talking about it to others. This is Seth Dillon's take on this. He said, no, there's nothing wrong with the phrase Christ is King. Proclaim it with humility and reverence. There's something seriously wrong, however, the way some have been abusing it, acknowledging this is neither an attack on Christianity nor a call to stop using the phrase. Anyone who says so is lying. The argument is not Christ isn't King or that we shouldn't say Christ is King. It's that everyone is saying Christ is King in good faith. There's plenty of evidence of that, and there are good reasons of Christians to find it objectionable. When a non-Christian gets angry and curses by explaining Jesus Christ, they've taken the Lord's name in vain. Christians find that objectionable, and they find it objectionable because God. So he's basically saying, like, in the same way that a non-Christian would say, like, Jesus Christ, we love you, God. In the same way they would say that, the same way that phrase can be appropriated by folks like Candace Owens that is questionable, like, based on your history of the stuff you've said about Jewish people, that's like unequivocally false. Are you saying it in good faith? And so she's just like straight pragmatic, like, well, it's trending number 4, and I said it to Ben Shapiro, and he's a Jew, and I said it in his face, right? And so the Jordan Peterson angle was interesting because people were like, dude, you haven't even acknowledged Christ the Savior, and you're sitting here correcting and lecturing someone that's...
you don't think he's acknowledged Christ the Savior?
This is what people are saying. I'm not saying I believe this. I'm saying this is what people are saying. And so they're pushing back and saying, hey, you haven't even acknowledged these things, and yet you're lecturing her on and I think she's a confirmed Catholic at this point. I'm not sure if she's gone through the catechism and all that kind of stuff. It seems a bit disingenuous. So it's like this.
She's yours.
Yeah, she's this massive civil war happening within this conservative space. And oddly enough, and this is going to be a hot take, like I think it's like, where do you draw the line on how flippant you're willing to talk about Jewish people? Like there's a segment of conservatives that they just see as like aligned with blind allegiance to Israel.
Yep.
And there's another segment of conservatives that are like, Israel bad, Israel was responsible for 9/11, Israel was responsible for fill in the blank, all the atrocities, the CIA, JFK.
And what does the middle say? Maybe responsible for 9/11.
I think the middle of the road, I don't know if you want to chime in on this, Jeff, but I don't think there's a quote unquote middle of the road. It's like, what do we know that's truthful?
Yeah.
Right? And what is being propagated as this trope that like Jewish people control the world and Israel was a false state.
Yeah.
And, you know, like there's a chasm of difference. The middle of the road would just be like, hey man, yeah, sometimes the IDF blows it.
Yeah.
Sometimes they blew it in Gaza. That's a fair critique.
Literally.
That we can say. They've blown it in Gaza on how they've handled certain situations where they've shot and killed their own hostages.
Oops.
Bad.
Yes. Bad.
Everyone should be able to say bad. That doesn't mean that now Jewish people are at the root of every single bad thing that's happened throughout history.
Yes. Yeah. That's definitely crazy. That's wild. Learn something new every day.
Oh, man. You go back historically throughout the centuries and centuries and centuries, like Jewish people, Israelites, have constantly been, I mean, just biblically, right? You read through the Bible, which, by the way, is interesting because that is their own history. And I don't know of another nation that will tell their own history that real and that raw.
It doesn't paint them in a positive light.
Yeah,
It doesn't their own
disparaging.
history.
Like,
Yeah.
it can be pretty wild. But I mean, again, they've been exiled. Every major empire has tried to squash them. Every major empire has tried to squash them. Whether it was the Romans, the Babylonians, the Egyptians, I mean, everyone. And if you read through the Old Testament, God just continues to bless them, which is quite interesting. And then if we take today and the media and what is propagated, it's kind of wanting to do the exact same thing. I mean, if we just go back, not even 100 years, 80 years ago, and which is something you're not going to talk about that tonight. We're going to talk about World War II a little bit. But I mean, look at what happened then with Hitler, and we forget our own history so much. So 5 years ago, it was like, I can't believe that happened to the Jewish people. And now it's like, you know,
They deserved it.
they deserved it, you know, from the river to the sea,
Right.
you know.
Right.
It's crazy.
It's a bummer. And by the way, this is what happens. So notice it'll happen in this comment section. It'll happen in chat. All or nothing thinking, right? Which is a form of cognitive distortion.
Yeah.
Referencing Andrew Clavin doesn't endorse everything Andrew Clavin has said. I disagree with Andrew Clavin's dispensationalism that Ben Shapiro doesn't need Jesus. I think he's flat out wrong about that. That doesn't mean he's wrong on this. Right?
Yeah.
This is so it's like you like one thing Candace Owens says, so you think she's right on this nonsense. Right? And so it's like you can't you have to be able to parse out tension within these conversations. Not everyone is always going to have the wrong take. Not everyone's always going to have the right take, right? But there seems to be like a persistence right now where you have folks saying that like the Jewish people secretly paid this guy to Jewify the Bible. Like it's like every week
The
there's
Schofield Bible.
The Schofield Bible. They created a new Bible to Jewify. Like every week there's some new nonsensical claim about Jewish people.
Yeah.
And it sucks. Now, by the way, again, and Jewish people aren't a monolith.
Yeah.
There's Jewish people that are very friendly to Christians, and there's Jewish people that are very hostile to Christians.
Hello.
Right? I've gotten back and forth with certain Jewish influencers. Me and Rudy Rockman, Rudy Israel, have gone back and forth because he called Christians idol worshipers. You know, and I'm like, you're nothing like any of my Jewish friends in Israel.
Wow.
And so I was like, let's have a conversation. Let's set up a debate. Let's talk about it, right? And so I think this like idea of, hey, we need to, it's all good or all bad. It's crazy. Like it's crazy. And so now it's flowing over between, which I popcorn emoji all day. I like Babylon B going back and forth with Candace Owens and her losing it because they made a joke about her. I'm all for it. I think it's better to have these conversations and get to it, but there's indoctrination that is happening that I think people have to be careful with. Again, that is not this hilarious. And I retweeted it. Candace Owens horrified to learn Christmas was started by the birth of a Jew.
That's great. Okay, so it says Candace Owens claiming she never tweeted Christ is King at a Jew.
I don't believe, since the prior November is what he was referring to. And I certainly did not tweet it at any Jew. And so an entire scandal was born.
That's great.
Hold on, yo. How do you guys rationalize this nonsense? Again, I'm not saying everything she's ever said is wrong. I think she's done some good stuff with the debates she's done. Like, I think she's had some really good takes on certain things. But how do you guys justify this?
I think she would say technically this was a response tweet to her own thread. And it wasn't a direct response to Ben Shapiro, maybe.
God, the cope.
But that's pretty funny.
The copium, bro.
Yeah, that's crazy.
So I think that when she starts riffing on pretty much anything about Jewish people, and if you guys want to know everything she said about Jewish people, go read Dennis Prager's response to her, where he put together like a 5,000 word response going over everything she said, historically defining it as someone who taught world history and all the foolishness. So I'm not going to sit here and pull out, she said this and she said that and she said this. That you can do that, and there's resources. I have a massive update for you. I'm sure by this point you've heard about the Blessed God Summit happening March 27th, 28th, 29th here in beautiful Carlsbad, California. But we've heard your requests. We've conceded to your demand. There are virtual tickets that are now available for the Blessed God Summit, so you can access it from anywhere in the world, as well as access to the replays. And for those of you guys that are looking for something extra, we're also offering a virtual ticket and an exclusive Bless God Summit merch bundle. There's some amazing art and some exclusive pieces done by our friend Josh Nadeau from Sword and Pencil that you have to check out. So join us online for the virtual event and experience some sessions from my favorite podcasters, pastors, and performers. We have a stacked lineup. I'm talking about Preston Perry, Dr. Sean McDowell, Inspiring Philosophy. What do you mean? Lila Rose, Alan Parr, and his wife Jen Parr. We even have Nate Sala from Wise Disciple, Gavin Ortland, David Wood, Avery from God Logic Apologetics. And on the pastoral side, we have my friend Daniel Golding, Pastor Ed Newton from CBC in San Antonio, and my personal pastor from Rhythm Church, Pastor Jeff Moores and his wife Erin Moores. You won't want to miss out from amazing performances from America's Got Talent winner Dustin Savella, Billboard charting hip-hop artist John Keith, and Miles Minnick. And we're still finalizing a few more speakers. So head over to blessgod.shop, get your virtual ticket now, and you can get yourself a bundle with some of the exclusive merch as well. I'll see you over there, all right? Peace.